All right, what's going on, everybody? This is L.A. Phil, the art and the artist. Today I am here with the multi-talented. First, let me just list off some of this man's accolades. Right? Grammy winner, fine audio expert, mixed media visual artist, author, professor of hip hop at CSUN, owner of Hype Studio L.A, which we are filming in today, creator of the Art of Sampling course. I am with the pluralist, Augie Ray.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for taking the time, man. This is this is a big deal to me. You know, I mean, you were the first artist that reached out to me to want to do an interview, and that's always been a milestone of mine. So, so thank you you so much.
No, as soon as I saw the show and I started like looking at it, I was like, wow, this is cool. Like, it's super amazing that you target like artists that are growing and emerging. So I want to be a part of that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the plan. You know, people ask me, wouldn't you want some millionaire artists that's selling, $1 million paintings? That would be okay. Yeah. But I like the people coming up. I like the people that are putting in the hard work right now that are striving to get right there. You know what I mean? So it's great. I list off these accolades, and some people might think, God, like, what have I done with my life? Man, you have done so much already, man. It's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah, I get that work ethic, especially from my dad and my parents, in general. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes even when you're like labeling those, I'm like, wow, you did that. Okay, all right. Well, there's a few things that I want to talk about before we talk about the show. Of course.
So, music. Mm-hmm. I was as I was doing my research, I read that you were doing an after-school program that was connected to EMI. Yeah. All right. So tell me about that.
Yeah. So like when I was at that time, I'm 11 years old. It was crazy because I woke up one day and at 11 years old, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I just had one of those primitive, what should I do? My brothers were basketball players. They played basketball for school, and I was decent at basketball. Not until I got into high school is when I really started like playing. Yeah. And so oftentimes I found myself like alone. You know what I mean? Just while my brothers were playing and doing their thing, I would come home and be like, okay, what is there to do? And I started off in music, playing the trumpet, and then that transitioned into playing the piano. And so when I found out that EMI was coming to our school, it was this after school program in Northridge at the time. It wasn't like, it's not like a bad area, but at that time it was definitely not like the best area, certain gangs and things that. So EMI came and they gave us this cool after school program that they had the business side as well as they had the musical side. And so I just woke up in the middle of the night one day and wrote my first rap. And
at 11.
At 11. Okay. I just woke up and I had this rap and I auditioned and for both sides, business and because I always had my foot in like business in a way. I was selling candy at school when you weren't supposed to, type of thing, And so I always had my hand in entrepreneurship in that way. And so anyway, then when they came to the school, they gave us this really great introduction to the music industry. It was actually incredible when I think about like the experience. They took us to Capitol Records. Oh wow! That's when I really decided to go on this path, is because my grandfather used to listen to Nat King Cole all the time. And so when you go to the Capitol building, the first thing you see when you pull up in the back is that Nat King Cole picture. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, wow, okay, I think this is what I want to do. And so after that, that program was great. Learned the business side of like how A&Rs listen to your music, and then also being a part of like how a record actually gets done. They took us to Sunset Sound, where we got to record like the album. We did like a performance. Wow. They even gave us a plaque. You know what I mean? So
that's incredible.
And so after that, I really like at school. I obviously was popular because of that as well. So people were like, oh my goodness, and I just kept that path, and I feel that it was just like God just started putting people around me at that time to go off. So that was kind of the experience for that.
Oh man, that's amazing. Okay, so you have this early experience with music. Mm-hmm. Okay, so after this, did you think that? I don't know. You were having existential questions at age 11. What were your expectations then? Did you think, okay, I think I'm going to be good enough to make this career?
Yeah, I think one thing that has always kind of been instilled in me, especially from my parents, is really this idea that, well, you have something, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, the work that goes into it, you know. And so giving you a prior understanding of myself, you know, like I used to wake up and on the weekends, instead of going out with your friends, we would be working in the yard, you know, like cleaning up. And I just remember my dad always telling me, you know, you'll thank me one day or whatnot, right? And so to answer your question, as far as like my expectations at that point was, you know, one, I felt that I was given something that a lot of people didn't get to experience. And so I understood that if I was going to be in this realm, that I was going to need a hard work ethic, you know, and that wasn't something that was foreign to me. And so, so expectation wise, I said to myself at that time, like, you know, I really enjoy this. It's a good feeling of being able to rap on stage. And then as I started to manifest that, you know, people around me started to come into place. I had a mentor at the age of 13 that had a studio in his house that showed me all this stuff. And so anyway, to answer your question, the expectation was, I think I want to do this, you know, as a career. You know, at 11,
Wow, that's incredible. And it's great to have a mentor to at 13. That's got to be the biggest plus ever, because not too many 13-year-olds know what they want to do. But then even if you do, not too many 13-year-olds will have a mentor that's going to teach them and show them the ropes at such a young age. That's amazing.
Or the right guidance. I mean, I think about like mentorship even now, how it's foreign to some of the, I guess we'd say like Generation Z. You know, it's foreign to an extent. The older generation understands mentorship very, very much. But I was lucky enough when I got my mentor, he was my next door neighbor. You know, so I'm walking home from school and I decided to play basketball with him next door, and he's still my mentor today. Like I still talk to him about stuff, and you know, he was, you know, my wedding, all that stuff. So anyway, I'm walking home playing basketball, and he hears me rap, and he's like, you know, I have a studio in the house. And he invites me in the house, and I got to, that's where the education came in. It was like SP 1200s, you know, MPCs, all this stuff. And he was willing to educate me on like the background behind hip hop and the things that I wasn't aware of at the time.
Okay, that's awesome. That's great. So what, I don't want to age you, but around what year is this?
Oh, you can age me. This is that's not 2000. This is 2003.
Okay. All right.
2003.
That's a pivotal time too, because at that time, all right, so I grew up in the 90s, right? And so I graduated high school 02.
Okay.
And the music was starting to shift. Like the sound started changing, like it always does. The sound always changes. But I remember that time fondly, because this is like, I love club records. Right? I have a big love for it. A lot of people don't like them. You know, I love a good club record. Right? And so that time, like the early 2000s, it was the greatest time, because some of the greatest club
music. Oh, for sure. You're awesome. In a club with 50 Cent.
You know?
And like you said, the transition, it was 90s golden era, right? So hip hop, and that transition from some of those 90 golden era hip hop artists, like transitioning into more of the commercial space. And so you got to hear, you know, like even like guys like Method Man and some other people like kind of transitioning their sound, for better or for worse.
That's true. Because I mean, it's sad to say, if you don't kind of keep up with the times, you just get kind of lost in the songs.
Totally.
Okay. Oh, that's dope. So I was gonna ask you your first instrument, but you said trombone.
Trumpet,
trumpet. I'm sorry, that's what you wanted to play first.
Which it was actually a funny story too. I ended up not bringing my trumpet in. I was actually supposed to go to another school other than Northridge Middle School, which the EMI program was a part of, because I was good at playing the trumpet. And I was going to go to a magnet school, but you know, innately, I actually didn't want to play the trumpet. I just was kind of like, at the time, I was just like, and so I stopped bringing my trumpet to school. My dad got mad. And the funny thing is, I don't come from a family of musicians or artists at all, you know. But my dad actually had like this real thing about like, you know, if you play an instrument, you could take it with you wherever you go. You know, and so he was really on me about like music in that way.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to have a parent that pushes you too, and that believes in you. That's great, man.
Yeah,
I'm glad your parents must be proud.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So we're still sticking with the music for now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're learning, you're getting older, you know, you're getting better at your craft. What do you say was the first sort of break, the first sort of time you realized, oh, okay, like I'm on another level right now. Maybe you got some recognition, maybe you're, you know, people are calling you to work with you.
I would say, well, when I got into high school, I moved to Palmdale or Lancaster in 12th grade. Yeah, so this was an interesting transition because it was my 12th grade year. And so like prom, all those things,
you know. At a new school.
Yeah, at a new school. So, and it was one of the things that was the best thing I think that ever happened to me. But at the time, it felt like the worst thing that ever happened. Because it was like, you know, transitioning from, you know, school that you went to and stuff. And it was my choice as well. My parents asked me and they were super open about like, do you want to stay here? And my thing was that if I went to a new school, I could totally be somebody totally brand new or whatnot. And that was the thing that opened my eyes. So when I got to high school, I decided that one, I had a bigger room, so I had like my full studio in there, and then I could invite students from the jazz class to come over to my house, and we could jam, and I could, you know, get some, you know, samples and stuff, you know. And so that was like a pivotal time because it was so quiet, you know, and in those years, it's like you kind of veer off to go somewhere, you know, and figure out what you're gonna do. And so when I moved to Lancaster, you know, that's what where I felt like I went to a new school. I started performing in a way that I never performed before. So I performed once at like my home school in the Valley, Birmingham. That's where I went. So I performed there once, and then when I moved to Lancaster, I was like the, you know, sensation when I got into high school. Like or got into that high school, it was like, this guy, we want him to perform for every you know, big, you know, event that we have. And so I was performing constantly. And so that was like a pivotal time, and that really gave me the confidence because I came in with an album. It was called The Lounge. It's not online or anything like that, but I printed out, like, I remember running upstairs and printing out my own like vinyl CDs, because back in the day you could get the verbatim vinyl CDs that look like vinyl. So I was going upstairs and printing those out. I had this girl at school that was printing out my cover or whatnot. So I came to school, I put them together, and then I was just giving them out for $5 a piece.
You know? Operation.
Just doing it, and people loved it. And so that really gave me a lot of steam. And then, you know, the transition into like interning for Warren Campbell, that was the catalyst. You know.
So this is the internship that started as after high school.
After high school.
College. Okay. So were you a music major in college?
I actually wasn't. No, I decided that I was going to do something that was different than music, because I felt that production to me is not something that necessarily can be taught in a sense. Like, I think that creativity and art is like something that is not even from us, you know? And you either have it or you don't. You know, like you have the aesthetic eye, you don't have the aesthetic ear. Some of these things, I guess, you know, arguably could be developed, you know what I mean? But I think that innately we grow up with a sense of what that was. So I didn't want to go to school and be in a structure, you know? So when I did go to school at CSUN, I decided to take psychology. And the funniest thing about psychology is that's like the number one weapon that you use in a studio situation. Because you got to understand people, you know, you got to understand yourself, and you have to understand the room, you know what I mean, and everything that it brings. And so if you want to get like a great record, you have to understand how all these things work together. And so ironically with psychology, I learned so much about how people think, you know, and also opening people up to write some of their best songs.
So I'd imagine it's a lot of managing personalities too, because I mean, if you're working on an album, got the artists, you've got, musicians coming in, you've got to deal with egos, you've got to deal with so much. So I would imagine psychology is, I never even thought, that's the perfect background to have, to deal with people.
Totally, yeah. Okay. And honestly, going to college, I wasn't thinking from that perspective. I was just like, I think psychology is the fastest way to get out of college.
Oh, I see.
Because honestly, I didn't want to go to college, to be honest with you. And so it was like one of those things that I was like, all right, I want to please the parents, you know what I mean? Yeah. But at the same time, I was just doing the work in between. But I found it to be actually like a really great, like I said, weapon to go into the studio with, because managing egos, you know, at the door, like before people come in, managing people when other people in the room. So you'll be, I mean, it's very interesting to see how people operate when other people are around them. Sure. And so one small thing can throw off an artist. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so then first big job then. First big job you get out of college.
First big job is jumping the broom, and that was given to me by Warren Campbell as far as when I was interning at his studio. When I first got to the studio, I didn't even know who he was, and then I found out all of his accolades when I got there, and working really hard, I decided, okay, I'm gonna really put myself in a position where I'm an asset. And so I just, did the interning for a while, and then my first big break was definitely jumping the broom. It was like, I'm hanging out, doing what I would do is like while Warren was working, I would be, headphones on, working on beats, and then whatever he needed me to do, I was cleaning, doing whatever. And then one day, you get that call or that conversation, and Warren just comes up to me and he's like, hey, can you work on these 2 cues? And the one thing that I find interesting in this day and age is that I would always show up ahead of time. And what I don't see sometimes with certain, artists is they're like waiting for someone to ask them for something. But I would be like, hey, Warren, here you go. So anyway, that was my first big break, is the Jump in the Broom soundtrack, doing a few songs on there, and then taking my parents to go see Jump in the Broom, and seeing the credits was crazy.
Oh, that's dope. Seeing your name on that big screen, that's gotta be incredible.
It's crazy. Yeah, it was amazing, honestly.
Okay, so then where do we get from Jumping the Broom on the soundtrack to Grammy nominated?
Oh, Grammy winning.
Grammy winning. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Grammy winning artist.
Yeah. Right? So once again, working with Warren, he gave me the alley-oop for that. It was pretty much like during the transition of me actually departing from his studio and starting to develop as my own artist. I was bringing people into the studio constantly. So Warren would come in maybe at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. He would probably leave around like 9 sometimes. And I would be there from 12. And then at 9 he would leave. And then I would have a conversation. I had the conversation prior, like, hey, can I bring an artist at 9 o'clock? And he was like, cool, as long as, you turn off turn on the alarm and do everything that you need to do. And that was the grind time. It was every night I was going in, clocking in, and bringing in artists and really cultivating. So that transition wasn't like an overnight success. It was like pretty much, I got to work with Heavy D before he passed or whatnot, and work on his final album. And he was a mentor of mine as well. He was he was the first person that noticed me at the studio and was like, oh, you make tracks? Well, send me some beats. And so I sent him beats, all the time. Crazy. Yeah, he introduced me to Pete Rock, some of my favorite producers. And so, from that, what ended up happening was just, cultivating and working on those records. Warren started coming to me to like help finish some records and stuff, or more so give my aesthetic. I don't want to say just help, because Warren is amazing. So give my aesthetic. And he gave me the opportunity to work on Erica Campbell's Help album. And I remember that night we won the Grammy. It was just like
incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. So
all right. And so then you're working with Rihanna, Elton John. You're working with. Well, who else then?
So working with Warren, so Rihanna is after Warren, and also Elton. But when I was working with Warren, I got to meet and like be a part of sessions with like Macy Gray, Dr. Dre, and like all these talented people like Musiq Soulchild. Like as a kid, Musiq Soulchild was like, I mean, still huge in my life. And I remember when he first came to the studio, it was like, whoa, this is, you know, like, you know, Musiq Soulchild, you know what I mean? And I'm just like freaking out. And then going to the nights where like I know him like personally, and we're going to like Denny's and sitting down and eating together and stuff, which was like mind-boggling to me. But anyway, working with those artists, and then transitioning, getting the opportunity to work with people like in the pop world, like Jason Evigan and Julia Michaels, and you know, even Meghan Trainor, and you know, just a few other, even before they got big and stuff. It was pretty incredible. So I mean, to be honest with you, I've worked with, you know, so many people in the music industry where it's like,
that's great, man. That is beautiful. Okay, so then that brings me into this studio here. Okay, and I saw, you know, I checked the website out and I saw what you're trying to do here. I'm not trying to do what you're doing here. My question is, what was the aesthetic that I get here, and from what I found online on the website, is it's not like other recording studios, even studios that I've been to, right? It's usually you go in there by yourself, there's maybe an engineer there, and then, you know, that's it. You go and you leave. But I get more of a community feeling that you're trying to build. Was that a big part of the plan to make it seem like, okay, you're not just some artists record and then leave? Make it feel like a family, make it feel like a community where there's people here that can help if you have any questions, you know, they can answer your questions. And also, what I think was a dope thing that I never heard before is you have a subscription base here. Okay, so what was the idea behind that? I think that's a great idea.
Oh, thank you. I mean, to me, my experience in the music industry was really, it's like getting a credit card. You know, it's like nobody really teaches you how to use it. You just kind of find yourself in certain places. Thankfully, you know, I had like some education prior to, you know, getting in the music industry, which was like the EMI program, and also my internship and learning like the ropes in that way. But I've learned that a lot of artists have no clue. You know, you just go to Guitar Center, pick up what you can get, and you just, you know, maybe go in your closet and try to get the best sound and go from there, you know? You know, and that's what a lot of, I mean, I didn't start off just like glitz and glam too. I definitely started off with, you know, these Dell speakers that my dad had, and I had the big old tube computer or whatever, and, you know, you're making beats, because honestly, 15 years ago, what we can use today is totally different. But going back to your question, it was like one of those things where I wanted to create the family community that I was used to as far as at Warren Studio. So when I was at Warren Studio, it was very much like if an artist came in, I was always introduced as who I was. Not, you know, hey, this is like an intern. So even here, we don't even say this is an intern. We say assistant or, you know, someone in a field, because that's what they're doing. They're operating in that way. So I always felt like when Warren introduced me to somebody, it was like, hey, this is, you know, Augie. Like, you know, so I wanted to have that same kind of family vibe, because I knew that when I went to like Record Plant and a few other, you know, studios that were top tier, some of the family element is just not there. You know what I mean? It feels kind of sterile. And so for me, that was a big portion of like creating this, and then being a student of the game or whatnot, learning about like Stax Records and learning about like Motown and learning about like, you know, Muscle Shoals and some of these other really great studios. Studios are less than just what we think they are. We think that they are like used just for recording, but they're actually like another home away from home. You know, you should feel comfortable when you come into, you know, your atmosphere or whatnot. You should feel that inspired by other people that have been there or whatnot. You should feel it in the walls, and also, you know, one thing that was really recognizable back in the day was like certain studios had a certain sound. You know what I mean? And for Hype Studios, that's what I wanted to bring back. It's like the funny thing is like the learning curve with the younger generation is more so like, well, I have my bedroom studio. Why do I need to go to the studio?
Yeah.
And the value is, well, come and check out the studio, right? Not just a studio you're going in and it's transactional, but come into a studio that is going to help you develop.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to put my bid in as far as with Hype Studios L.A. to be like, okay, I'm going to go head to head with a Glenwood, or I'm going to go head to head with a, Record Plant or a Chalice or something like that. Those are not, that's whatever. That can be what it is. But there's no middle ground, right? Going from bedroom producer into Chalice can be super intimidating. You know what I mean? So the middle ground is what's important, which is development. Is to understand like how you sound on a U87 or how you sound with certain types of headphones. These are things that I learned when watching artists. Certain artists wouldn't wear certain headphones because it didn't allow them to emote in a certain way. Or certain microphones, like Drake only uses, the Sony mic, or, Beyonce, Dr. Dre, they have certain tools, but how do those tools come about? Those tools come about with time of being in a space, so that way you can convey that, and so I wanted to kind of change the trajectory of our generation in the sense of still having the time to develop. And so that's when we came up with the membership idea, which was more so like the things that we kind of eliminate and the things that we open up for the artists, which is we eliminate the pressure to go into a studio, because at home you don't really feel pressure. So that's the cool thing about having a bedroom studio. And I still have a bedroom studio, but I know that if I wanted to get to a professional place, I need to go into a real studio to cultivate that sound. And so with that, like I said, thinking of the membership, it was like, okay, accountability is important too. Being in a membership, you think about like having a gym membership. How many times are you going to miss out if you're spending, if you're at Equinox or whatever, you're going to go every single day. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to keep that accountability factor to be like, hey, you working on an album or you're not working? Like, keep on working and working. And so a lot of our members, they really enjoy the fact that there's that accountability because they're not going to miss out on their hours. And then also like the pressure is alleviated. And then also you have an organic community that's not based on like networking in the music industry, which I can find like, I'm a talkative guy, I'm a very nice guy, but it can also be difficult to like, you're at a place and you just have to meet people randomly. But if you're going in and out of the studio and you see like, oh, like such and such was here, maybe, I'll come by this other time and hang out with that person or whatnot. You're going to find yourself in a place where you're building a team organically. And that's what you need really in the music industry to thrive. So,
Okay. I've got it's more a personal question because I have a way I feel about this. Do you think if you're going to be a music producer, you should learn to play an instrument?
I think you should. But I also think that I've always had this thought, like where there is a gray area in between intellectual and creativity. And the middle ground is that I think that baby steps are really important. So when we talk about baby steps, when you give a baby a book to read, how hard is it for that baby to read that book? You know what I mean? Then the natural of the baby just being able to imagine what a book would be, right? Or like what would be in that book. And so what I'm getting to is this gray area, which is like, if you don't play an instrument, but you study enough or whatnot to be able to understand musicality in a sense. Like there's people that will, they don't know one thing about like certain notes and a scale or anything like that, but they will roast you when it comes to like understanding where a song comes from and how it was built and formulated. And they're just, to me, as good as someone that knows the notes on a keyboard. They just need to elevate. So now as you get better and better, I think don't stay in one area. Then at that point, if you're just ear trained or whatever the case is, then start branching out and starting to play some instrument that calls to you or whatnot. So to answer your question, I definitely think as a producer you should definitely learn to play an instrument. But I think that if you don't play an instrument, you should understand the musicality so much that you're able to convey to someone else how you want things done.
Yes.
So.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree. Okay. Okay. This might be my last music question. I could talk about music all day, first of all. But okay, so the art of sampling. Okay, the course that you have. All right, so did that come before the studio, or that came after?
Yeah.
Okay, because I like that. Like from what I gathered from just going on your website and learning about you is you want to share your knowledge. You know what I mean? I feel like I was looking through everything. I was reading over all your stuff, and I'm thinking, someone that has so much going on doesn't have to do this. There are a lot of people that have a lot going on that don't want to help the next generation. All right, is it important to you to pass your knowledge on to the next generation of musicians?
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, I think about this as like, and I actually had this conversation with Heavy D a long time ago, which was, I told him, your generation was stingy with the knowledge. So that's why you have like so many kids going to YouTube for knowledge. And your ego is hurt because they're not coming to you and begging at your door to be like, hey, my generation was begging at the door. You know, your generation was begging at the door just to get some type of knowledge. But then there was something that stopped the understanding of masters teaching like their students. Like you think about like Martha Graham, Nadia Bogart, like all these really masters at their craft, that were, had schools and they were teaching to other students. Now where we find our information is on YouTube University, and some of that comes from our own pride, which is more so like, I don't need to ask, someone else. I can just go learn it myself. And that's because that lineage of mentorship was cut off at a certain point, in my opinion, And for me, what I feel like, I think that we have the things we do and we have purpose. If the things that I do don't align with my purpose, then I can't do those anymore. My purpose is much bigger than what we see that is tangible. Like, okay, I have a studio, I have this, but what is that an extension of? It's really an extension of my reality, which is like, I was blessed to have mentors in my life. I was blessed to have opportunities in my life. And so with that, when I look at Hype Studios L.A. and music and all those things, it's like, these are not gifts that I would say are mine. You know what I mean? They come from a higher source. And so at that point, it's one of those things that, you give freely because I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm not afraid that, what I do is gonna, not work anymore. You give what you want. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want. I want to, inspire the next, just like I was inspired. So that's kind of
that's great. That's great, man. Yeah, because I know that. So when I started making music, so this is like 01, 02, okay, and I had a great teacher. I learned Cubase when I was like 19.
Oh, nice.
That's what I learned to make everything on, and I had a great teacher. But I would try to talk to some of the older people. So this is why I was going to LACC at the time, and a lot of older musicians and stuff. They were taking the advanced class. I'm taking this intro to electronic music. And I would ask them about, I'm learning about reverbs and I'm learning about all these different aspects of putting music together. And they're like, oh, well, I do it my certain way. I'm like, well, why don't you tell me how you do it? Well, I don't know. That's my secret. That's my secret. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess.
That's the thing. You have to give freely. Those people are not here anymore because they didn't give freely, and the next generation is the generation that's going to teach us what we need to do next. You know what I mean? I'm often here. Honestly, there was definitely a time of like solace when I was coming in here, and before Hype Studios L.A., I was just in my own isolated bubble, just working on projects privately, And then once I started inviting that energy into the space, I started getting inspired. Like I'm inspired by the guys that are here, where I'm like, wow, like, okay, how did you get your 808 to hit like that? How did you get, these sounds to do, the cool arpeggiated rhythm that you're doing. It's like, when I see that, then I go, oh, I can use my technique with that technique and then evolve. So with the artist sampling, that's exactly what I'm want to do. It's like sampling is an art. You know what I mean? And for a long time, it was taboo to sample, actually. But everything that we use today is a part of a sample. Like these keyboards that we buy or whatnot is sample. So the thing that people really didn't like about sampling was the fact that you're not creating your own or original music. But the truth is that the best samplers like Madlib, Jay Dilla, you know, RZA, all these people, they manipulated the sound so well that you don't even know that it's a sample. It's a totally new song. It's just using the feeling, the vibe, all that stuff into it. So we're definitely seeing a resurgence in sampling. And so that's kind of what the charge for me is like to really show light to the younger generation. Like, yo, sampling is huge. You can do so much with it.
Oh, that's great. When it's done well. Because I remember growing up in the 90s, I would always hear this when I was a kid, right? So I'm a huge Dr. Dre fan. And I would just remember hearing, well, that's not, he didn't even make that up. Like, you listen to Gin and Juice, well, that's from a different song. I'm like, well, he sampled it. That's the point. And that's what kind of made me fall in love with music, because, you know, you're a kid in the car with your parents and you're listening to oldies, right? And then you hear a sample of a song that you've heard a million times, and you hear the way that they flipped it and made it their own. I think it's great. And so when I saw that you had that course, the art of sampling, I was like, man, what do you not do? You know, what is going on here?
I mean, think about it like this. Like with art, it's like Marcel Duchamp or whatnot. He was known for the ready-mades. And so he would actually just go to the store and pick up something that was like, you know, maybe it's a, you know, trash can or something, and flip it upside down and put it in an art show. And the craziest thing is, like, what are we perceiving? Are we perceiving like the idea that this is just a trash can flips upside down, or are we seeing his reality of what he's creating? Some of us would say he's not doing anything, you know, but and then some of us would say he's doing so much with so little. And so, like, a little like background, as far as like being Black in America, our resources have been limited from the beginning of time. You know what I mean? Until, you know, now we're integrating or progressing or whatever you want to say. But the truth is that sampling, the reason why it got a bad name also is because of the fact that these children were using, you know, limited resources of a turntable and finding a sampling machine and putting it together and then creating, you know, what we know as hip hop, you know. And I think that the older generation, when they look at it and they say, well, they're not really playing those, you know, that music or whatever the case is. Well, they just used a different medium, like a collage or whatever the case is to make that. So,
collage, that's a good way to put it. Okay. All right, so you are a professor of hip hop at Cal State Northridge.
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been teaching that?
So actually, last semester was my first semester.
Okay.
Yeah, and you know, it was a great semester of you know, just teaching hip hop in a way that I wanted to bring current events and mix them with what happened in the past. Okay. And where I really go deep is the 90s era, because that's kind of where I grew up, you know what I mean, is in the 90s. And so we talk about, you know, some of the how hip hop started and some of the pioneers back then, but we fast forward into the 90s and the 2000s when things are really starting to, you know, come together for hip hop. So,
Oh, that's awesome. So you plan on, you're gonna stay there for a while?
So I'm doing that next semester during the fall semester.
Okay.
Actually teaching 2 classes for that, and the cool thing about it is that hip hop is more than just music. It's activism. You know what I mean? It's our voice that you cannot run away from. You know, and I think that hip hop needs to have a lot more credit, because even for CSUN, this is somewhat of a newer. They had hip hop like maybe I think it was like 5 years ago, a hip hop class, but then they got rid of it, and then now they're bringing it back. Yeah. And hip hop's been around for 50 years. Yeah. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. It's undeniably one of the top genres in the world.
Oh yeah.
And so with that in mind, it's like we have to give the respect where it's due and understand that it's really helped culturally.
Yeah.
As a point of activism and having a voice within America, within, internationally, all those things. So that's when I do the hip hop class, I like to go into deep thought of what is this actually about? You know what I mean? Is this, so it's not just entertainment.
Yeah. It's much more than entertainment. Yeah. And I would say even more so in the 90s. I mean, okay, I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh, this generation of music is trash. Nothing good. It's come out since 98. No, but even more then, right? It was much more political. It was much more, the swag era kind of muddied the waters a little bit, but there were actual messages in the music, as well as just music, to have fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's such a wide spectrum of thoughts and ideas that you can put into this music, that you can have a KRS-One and Tupac, but then you can also have, on the other side, you could have like the music of today, even like the Future of the world, or the Drakes of the world. It's hip hop is, speaking personally for me, a big part of my life and a big influence on the way that I saw the world. I didn't go to school where I lived, right? I went to elementary school in Santa Monica.
Oh wow, okay.
And just a different tax bracket than where I was from. But the one thing that I know that a lot of my friends and I had in common was the music that we listened to. And we can just talk about that and relate to that. And I was always so happy. Like, some people get upset when white rappers are successful. And that kind of blows my mind, because here is something that is undeniably black, undeniably originated from us, and it has such a big influence on people all over the world that other races and other countries and, everyone wants to do it. So I can't get mad at a white kid that wants to rap. I feel happy because this is a part of my culture that you take interest in. Now, don't get me wrong. You've got the Kid Rocks of the world who, use the music for, to get in, and then now is making country music. You know what I mean? But then you do have those kids that, maybe didn't come from the best homes, and hip hop saved their life. You know what I mean? So I look at that as, I know we are more than just entertainers, but the reach that the music has had across the world, to me, it makes me proud.
Totally.
It really does.
Yeah, to comment on that too, I think about introducing like the white rapper or whatnot into hip hop. Like you said, I think that it definitely opens up doors to further regions. Like when Eminem got into the music industry, it was one of those things where it was undeniable. We had other white rappers prior to that, Vanilla Ice, you had, Beastie Boys and things like that. But I think that the truth is that hip hop is more than just the music. It's about the culture. A lot of hip hop influencers or whatnot can relate to other, like ways of street culture or whatnot, like, like graffiti or, street writing or whatever, like it has a synergy with hip hop. And so the truth is the thing that would upset me though, is like when, if Kendrick comes out with an album and Macklemore gets, the Grammy for it, and
biggest travesty of all time.
And exactly. And if we see it from a position of like, okay, hip hop, the scope of it, what does that entail, and how in the world does Macklemore receive a Grammy over Kendrick Lamar for a certain record? No disrespect to Macklemore, you could be influenced by it, but are you actually like, and that's a deeper conversation. Are you actually integrated into the hip hop space?
Yes.
And what does that mean? Cosigns, like, you know, like, does anybody that's big hip hop head actually co-sign with Macklemore? You know what I mean? Or is the upper heads at the Grammys like, okay, we're gonna give it to this young white boy? You know what I mean? So
and that's whoever's voting for these Grammys. I mean, it's obviously I feel like they're looking at numbers, right? Mm-hmm. You can look at how much a record is sold, but that doesn't really tell you the impact that it has in communities, right?
No, not at all.
No, because I mean, a guy like Macklemore. Okay, this is why I don't mind when white people say Eminem is the best rapper of all time, is because they can relate to that. Mm-hmm. Okay, Eminem has been accepted from day one. Yeah, Dr. Dre co-signed. Right? Mm-hmm. So if they can identify with him, them saying he's the greatest rapper of all time, that does not affect me. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what they think. Yeah. Okay, and that's okay. Yeah, that's absolutely okay. But like you said, it's who vouched for him, and that's why I feel like a person like him. I'll never forget. I was a freshman in high school when Slim Shady LP came out. Yeah, I listened to that album a million times.
Totally.
And I never once thought that, okay, this guy he's definitely not faking it.
Yeah.
He got signed by Dr. Dre, you know, and so this is someone who is respecting the culture, and because you respect the culture, you get respect back from the people that have been doing it, you know, as long as they have.
Exactly. And why I have like so much respect for Logic too, like and he's asked for permission in a sense, not to say that you need permission to rap, but he's definitely said, okay, I'm gonna go to the GOATs or whatever, like No ID.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to, you know, rap with Wu-Tang. I'm gonna go get a co-sign by Madlib. This last album is superior. It's Final Days is really dope. And so like he's going to these hip hop well-respected people in the industry. Yeah. And not even in the industry, but just in general, and asking for their co-sign or whatnot. So me as a hip hop head, when I'm listening to the records, I know it's authentic because he's getting that information rather than someone just coming straight into hip hop with no affiliation. Like if we look at, like I said, I'm not going to get big on Macklemore, but the truth is like, who are his cosigns, right? And did he have to buy his cosigns, right? Like for them to be on his record or whatever? Because to be honest with you, I don't know too many records where it's like, oh, you really got such and such, like, and was that paid for, or was that like, hey, I'm just gonna hop in because you're dope, you know what I mean? So no disrespect, but that's just where I'm at, you know?
I get it. All right, okay. Now let's move on to the art. When did you start? Okay, so you've got just so much stuff going on, man. It's hard for me to fathom when you had time to really even get into producing art. So when did that love for art, for painting and, you know, sculpting and things like that, when did that manifest? Was that always something that you were working on, or was that something that you started doing later in life?
Yeah, so funny enough, I went through this real transition in life, and the transition was good. It was very much like a look inside. And so thinking about it, sometimes I'm like, how long have I been doing art for, you know? And I think about like, once again, going back to mentorship, I never really went to museums until I was about, I would say, like about 19 or 20. Oh, okay. You know, I went to like Getty Museum and those things, you know, but I never really like went to like galleries and checked things out until I had a lady by the name of Moya. She actually works at Fender right now. And she exposed me to just like this understanding of I'm an artist, right? And what does that mean? I thought I was just, I would say at that time, like a beat maker, you know what I mean? Like, and I just like making beats and stuff. But she said, you know, you got to think deeper as far as like artistry. Like, how do you express yourself? And why do you express yourself? And let's just go to LACMA, right? That was the first museum. I'm from LA, and this was my first time going to LACMA. Really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I go to LACMA. I'm just sitting there like, whoa, this is crazy. You know, just, and the cool thing about like a good mentor is like someone that doesn't have to say much. So it wasn't about her saying like, see this and how he put this together. It's just like, I'm looking around. I think what we saw was Stanley Kubrick at that time.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was just like, wow, this is crazy. And then we just started going to more like galleries and things. So this is at 20 years old. And then after that, I just had this really, usually when I'm making music, I usually see illustration first before I start creating.
Okay.
So because I want to feel and hear where I'm going. And so prior to this, I wasn't drawing at all. I wasn't painting or anything like that. I actually would paint stick figures when I was little and stuff. You know, my brother, or like one of my brothers, like was really good at drawing and stuff. And so I always shied away from it. So at this point, I'm just doing audio stuff. And so when I start seeing the art stuff, I learned that at that time, there's so many different mediums to express yourself. It doesn't have to just be like drawing, and there was collages. There's you know different ways to sculpting and stuff to express yourself. And so I started naturally just going to different galleries. And so I would say 3 years ago, I got to do a trip where I went to the Louvre. I went to go see Picasso Museum. I got to go to Palace of Versailles. And all these different places. And at the time, I thought it was all for music. Like I was thinking like, oh man, this is where Kanye was. You know what I mean? This is where he got inspired for Dark Twisted Fantasy and, some of these crazy things. But at the time when I came back, I wasn't really able to transmute it into the music because it wasn't used for that. And then fast forward to now, I'm like, whoa, it's crazy because my journey with art was waking up in the middle of the night. Same thing with, rapping, and I get these kind of like thoughts and downloads in my head where it was like, yo, go pick up a pastel, right? I never picked up a pastel in my life. I order them on Amazon, they come, and every day since that day, like that was 2 years ago, to now, I just started drawing and just painting and just, whatever came to my mind, that's what I'm putting down. And my whole thing is if you work really hard at something, and as I said before, you either have it or you don't, then you're going to manifest what that is. And so that's when, I just really started to work really hard on understanding what it means to be an artist, because I was already studying these artists prior to drawing, and then now it's like all these downloads in my head are coming out on paper. It's like, oh, like some of my art looks like something that George Condo might do, or some of my art looks like something that Henry Taylor might do. You know what I mean?
Okay. All right. So you're a couple years in. Was there ever a moment when you realized, okay, I've worked on this so much, I can't stop thinking about doing this, I can't stop creating? Was there a moment when you realized, okay, now I'm at a level where I feel like I should be doing shows, I should be in galleries?
I think that thinking about my experience within the music industry, how you present yourself is how you are going to be received. And you see that young, arrogant, egotistical kid that's like, yo, like my music's crazy. There's something to say about that though. In respect to someone that can be that way, right? I'm not an egotistical, but I'm saying like, there's something about like, I remember going into meetings and they're very sterile, like with music, where you play your records and you just sit there and you play them, and the A&R is like in his computer, and then I've also been in meetings where I'm partnered with somebody that's playing music, and they get up and they're like, yeah, do that, and then the A&R is like on his computer and he gets up and he's like, oh yeah, and the music is okay, you know what I mean? But but the vibe and the energy that comes behind it is what's selling everything. And impression is everything. And so, as you mentioned, I think that people take the stairs sometimes to get to where they want to go. Given my experience like in music, I feel that, I'm sure it's taken me 15 years to get to this place. I know that with art, it's going to take another 15 years for certain things, or maybe less, or whatever. It's a marathon. You don't know what's going to happen. That's what creativity is. But one thing I do know is that I'm not taking the stairs, right? I'm going to take the fastest way possible to get to those places. So you see these talented artists that are not contacting galleries. They're not, like meeting people in certain circles or whatnot in order to elevate themselves. Yes. They're just staying isolated. Yeah. And they're already ready. You know what I mean? Yeah. They've been doing it for 15 years. I don't think time, to be honest with you, is in accordance with your talent and your ability to create. Yeah. Expression is something that everybody has, but not everybody uses, right? Yeah. So nobody tells you to stop speaking because you're not a good speaker, right? Like, stop speaking. So if that's a form of expression, same thing with art, that's a form of expression. So no one should tell you not to, to stop drawing or stop, painting or whatever the case is. And so to answer your question, the way I look at it is like, okay, I believe in what I'm doing right now. Yeah. I believe that my expression is palatable, like that people understand when they see it, like what I'm saying. Yeah. And so at that point, now I need a platform. Yeah. And platforms don't come when you go to somebody. Yeah. You have to build your platform, and then they will come to you. Yeah. And so with everything that I'm doing, even going into this next year, it's all about my platform as far as community or whatnot, and meeting the right people, and being bold and being straight to the point with what I do as far as art goes. Okay. Yeah. All right.
No, that's a good answer. I like that. That's pretty incredible though, to be a couple of years in, and this is not your first show that you're doing at the Art Box. It's a hard work. Hard work, kids. All right, it pays off.
It does. I'm also, I didn't put this in the bio, but I'm also a 6-time marathon runner as well. So yeah. But I do believe, it's like, even with that, waking up, deciding what you're gonna do, and then doing that thing without any reward. Knowing that this is for you. Yes. You know what I mean? And so when I take, anything that I'm going to do, I have to take it seriously. Yeah. I'm going to put that amount of energy into what I'm doing because I want to live a fruitful and eventful life. Yeah. And in order to do that, you have to be challenged. You're going to go to places and the door is just going to be shut on you. I mean, I've heard artists for their solo exhibits, it might take them like 7 years to get to that place. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? And luckily it's taken me, a year and a half or 2 years, you know what I mean, to get to that place. But, I'm excited for the doors that are going to open after this as well. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I went to this gallery in the, you ever been in the Bendix building downtown?
Bendix, no.
It's near like the alley. Okay. It's not in the nicest place, but there's this building and there's just a bunch of galleries, there's a bunch of artists in there. It's really, really cool. Oh, wow. And I met this guy who sometimes shows in there. Just a really nice artist, nice guy. I think he does, he's got a main job, but he's been an artist for 30 years or something. And he told me he's never sold a painting. Whoa. And I said, I was like, what do you mean you've never? Like, I've seen his art, like, it's pretty good. Yeah. He's like, no, I never sold a painting, and I would never stop making art. Wow. I was like, okay, all right. Well, he's got a job that pays, he's got a really good job. But even though all of these years, to not be discouraged, to never pick up a paintbrush again, and he still does it because he loves it. And kind of goes with what you were saying. You have to have purpose. Because if you have no purpose in life, or if you have no, like, people can, when you're young, I understand that maybe you don't know what you want to do with your life. And that's the time for you to explore. But when people get older, I feel like they think that it's too late. Now, some things, okay, maybe. You're not going to go and become a doctor when you're 60 years old. It's just too much school. But I feel like if you stick with it, and if your heart's in it, if you really, really try, see, that's the thing. People will try for a little while and give up. Yeah. And that's it. And I just thought it was so amazing that this man who's been making art, he had to be in his mid-50s, making art since he was in his 20s. Yeah. Never sold anything, but will still keep making art. Yeah. I think that's amazing.
I think a good tidbit with that is also diversifying yourself. So never allow your your passion to become your only source of money.
Oh yeah.
You know, to me, that is, I did that in the music industry, which to me, I feel like also took me to a place of like, okay, I'm kind of hoeing myself out here. You know what I mean? Like, will you buy a beat when I know that, my track is, you know, worth way more than what I'm getting. I'm willing to take whatever I can get for it. Yeah. And so what I told myself as I transitioned into owning my own studio and, you know, starting to build equity, you know, in other areas was I will never allow myself to attach myself to things that are passionate for me. I should be able to detach from, you know, if I'm going to sell a painting for $30,000, like I want to sell that painting not just based on, because I've been to farmers markets where it's like, this is a beautiful painting. If this was in a gallery, it would probably be like $30,000, but you're selling it here for $200. You know what I mean? With the frame, like with the canvas, original work, all this stuff. And then at that point, you ask yourself, like, well, if I was to invest in this, then I would want my piece to go up in price, right? And so for a person like me, where I'm diversified in that sense, I like to look at it as when you buy a piece from me, you're buying me. You know what I mean? Rather than you know, just one thing. So diversifying yourself and not allowing your passion to be the thing that is the only sole way to make money.
That's true.
That's important, because that's when you can deject and say, I'm sure that guy, it's his choice. And if he does decide to sell a painting, it's not going to be for $100.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
So you're right. And you've got to know your worth. Because I see a lot of artists online. Like that's usually where I find a lot of the artists. Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that. And I see this almost every day. It's someone wants to buy your art, or they want to commission work from you. And you tell them, these are my prices. And then they want to talk you down and talk you down and talk you down until it's, you know, I don't even want to do it anymore. So know your worth. Absolutely know.
And create your own platform, because if you go to a platform, they're going to dictate your price. You know, but if you're at a platform and people are looking for you, you can dictate your price.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So as far as making art goes, you know, and I know that the music industry is a little bit different. You're always, well, not always, but most of the time you're working with people, you know, that are in that field. Have you found a group of artists, I don't know, maybe where you live or just around the city here? Because I mean, Southern California is a ton of artists, but have you found any like-minded artists like yourself to, you know, bounce ideas off of, or maybe maybe work together, or you just go hang out and talk art or look at art or anything like that?
Totally, yeah. I mean, I'm involved right now with a community called the Tiny Art Gallery, and they're really great, and I really enjoy working with them because everybody that's in that collective is very open to sharing ideas, and I've met a lot of great artists and had really great conversations about their pieces and what they do and how they do it. I always think of as far as like inspiration and collaborating with people, you always got to make sure that person doesn't feel intimidated by you, and that person will share as much ideas and thoughts of whatever, because sometimes people are like, just like what we mentioned earlier, it's like, this is mine and I don't want anybody to touch this. So to answer your question, I'm always searching for emerging artists, and when I meet them and we are on the same wavelength, you know, we're all open to sharing. I met tons of people at Blix, you know what I mean, where I'm just like picking up something, and you know, I met this guy named Zabizi that did the Parasite movie art in there. And you know, he's definitely been like a great inspiration, and a few other people there. So
okay, that's good. Okay, if you were to describe your art to somebody without them ever having seen it before, how would you describe your style of art?
See, that's something I've been thinking about lately, and I think I would say definitely expressionist. I would say abstract expressionism. And
Okay. All right. So as far as being inspired to make a piece, Now, do you pull from your past and your past experiences? Is it more so the present, what's going on right now? Something might inspire you right now and you want to go and make peace about it. A combination of the two, or is it you just like to make nice things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of all three of those things. So I've always had this thing where even before I made like a track or a beat or something like that, I cook in my head. So I like to cook at home too. And so if I'm thinking of like a new recipe, I'm thinking about how all those components like can all integrate and work together. So like one of my favorite cooking shows is Chopped. Chopped. Because I get this random bag and they gotta just make it happen. And so for me, I'll normally get like a thought, like, okay, like today I have this idea that I'm gonna go out there, out in the front, and I'm gonna take some paint, throw it all over the canvas, and then I'm just gonna find what like a face and just create a face out of what I'm working on. I got spray paint, I got a few things, but limited material. And so to answer your question, I like challenges, and the way that I create is normally like I'm thinking about it before I even do it. So I like to be working even when I'm not working. And then a lot of the inspiration comes from, you know, if I see something that's aesthetically pleasing to my eye and I'm like, like I was watching an interview with Tyler the Creator the other day, and I was like, man, these colors are really dope. Like, he had blue background, and then he had like a green hat. And I was like, did they figure this out with his styling? Because it just fits, you know what I mean? And so I took a picture of it, and now I have it. And then it also becomes a download in my head. And a lot of these things I think truthfully come from some ancestral thoughts, which might be some ancestor that I'm tapping into because I draw certain people over and over again. And then some of it comes from like pictures I might have seen on the floor or a feeling actually that I want to convey. So if I'm like, I want to convey some sort of anger or some like who looks that way, let me draw Mike Tyson, let me draw this, and then I'll just draw it freehand, you know what I mean? So majority of my art is freehand.
So all right, so you said before that there's no artists or musicians in your family. Do you think that maybe might have helped you out, being so creative and the creative that you are, that you really didn't have a blueprint, that you had to kind of make your own blueprint?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. I often think about that a lot. Like, well, how am I the only like artist in my intermediate family? I have other family members, but we didn't really talk too much about like music or anything like that. But I think that growing up, like I said, I felt very alone. Like when it came to certain things, like I always came home and went in my room and worked on stuff or whatever. So I think a lot of that was me trying to find my own way, and I found it faster because I felt like this gave me a feeling of like power and confidence that I was good at something that maybe my brothers weren't good at, or something that they didn't do or whatnot, to show myself in that way or whatnot. And so, thinking deeply about that, I think it really helped because, like when the student's ready, the teacher will show up. You know what I mean? So,
I like that. All right. Okay. So I like this. You call yourself a pluralist, and I think that is the perfect word to describe it. But so you're using your skills in tandem, okay? And this brings me to the show you got coming up, okay? And I want to talk about that first. So July 29th is the show opening, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Go get your tickets.
Yes, sir.
I already registered for mine. It's going to be at the L.A. Art Box in West Hollywood on Melrose. Like I said, get your tickets. It's going to be running from July 29th through the 31st.
Yes, sir. You better get those tickets.
Okay, so I want to talk about the show and how the idea for the show came together. Okay, so it's an immersion of really just a lot of your skills, right? It's going to be the music plus the art. So what was the inspiration behind this, putting the show together?
Yeah, I think that I've always had this thought of how can we create visuals and audio and blend them together where they're seamless. Yeah. And one of my favorite music videos of all time is Thriller. And because of the fact that the music really is really well combined with the visual look of it and the work that they put into that that video or whatnot. And so where we're at right now is I always thought it was going to be something that had to do with video. Yeah. So I bought a camera like a long time ago, and I was, videoing stuff and putting songs to them because I always feel like my music is very theatrical, and it's big, and it's, it's bigger than just putting it on like a commercial or something like that. Yeah. And so I haven't at the time, 3 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever, like I was just kind of, like I said, hoeing my beats out. So it was like, this song that I'm doing for Elton John or whatever is like super dope. It has live strings on it, has all these crazy things. But to be honest with you, I think it's bigger than him. Yeah. And so with that in mind, you have to have the platform though. You can't just drop like a record and just think that it's gonna, come out. And so when I started painting, it really opened my mind to, these visions that I get in my head, I always thought they were supposed to be for a video or something else of that nature or whatnot, like that had to do with, not drawing or something. And so when I started drawing, I started to merge these things together where like you look at a painting and you only get like a 2D understanding of what that painting actually is. We don't go to the fourth dimension. Maybe Picasso and some of these other, Cubist, artists or whatnot, but the fourth dimension is like really encompassing so many different perspectives. And so for me, I felt that this was something that I really wanted to implement in general. So with the R.E.D show, it's about the feeling, it's about what you're seeing, it's about what you're hearing. So feeling wise, I have a whole nother thing that you're gonna actually feel on your body during the walking around. And thinking about it from a fine art perspective, I like to disrupt industries. And so like with that in mind, that's the only way, to have a conversation. So a lot of my pieces are conversational, a lot of my pieces are, about like how you feel rather than, because sometimes people come to me like, well, how did you get inspired from this this piece? Or, where did it come from? And I'll tell you what I think. But the truth is I want to know what you think, I think the true depiction of character within an artist is allowing the person and the audience to be a part of the painting.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so red. What does the color red symbolize?
Yeah, I think red is the world in a nutshell, to be honest. It's like, it's one of those colors that, one, it's a primary color, so you can't like create it. You know what I mean? You can, people are creating, but it's not something where you can mix colors together and get it. It's a primary color. So the interesting thing about red is it has so many emotions that are attached to it. So when you wear red, you're more looked at as like dominant. You know, if you see royal kings or you see certain prolific, people in history, a lot of them had some form of red on them or whatnot, Napoleon and things of that nature. And so when I think about like that dominance, like that is for me with this red show is like I'm rising to, just more so my purpose or whatnot. And then also with red, it also symbolizes the sense of urgency. So anything that's urgent is red, you know what I mean? So like if you're following an ambulance, it has, red on it. If you're stopping at a stop sign, it's red. Why is it red? Because your eye naturally, if we're in a room, is going to draw yourself to red. Right now, thinking of the current state that we're in as far as like Americans, we're in a state of red, you know what I mean? There's, dominance, there's urgency, there's also anxiety that comes with red. So it's also like when you think about red in your house, it's like if it's in your house and you see it all the time, you might be a little freaked out by it. You know what I mean? Because it's always pulling you in. You know? And it's aggressive. It's like, here I am. Blue's not like other colors, even primary colors are not as aggressive as red is. You know what I mean? And so studying the color red and understanding it's not this show is not just about, hey, let me just put red on the wall and you guys check it out. It's really about the raw emotional dissonance that's happening in the world or whatnot. It's like, you know, drawing, like I feel like that's what red is. It's raw, it's emotional, and it bleeds through the dissonance that's in the world. So,
Okay. All right, there was something that I read on your website, and I would like to go a little bit more into it. It says here. Okay. Well, there's a couple things I wrote down here, actually. I'm going to go with this one here. Okay, it says, your style captures raw emotion through works that push boundaries, straddling the line of expressive freedom and survival. With his unique style of art, he challenges each viewer to combat dissonance and live authentically. Now, in today's world, where social media, a lot of people like to be the center of attention, and you can get yourself out there more than ever before in the history of the world. Right? Do you think that social media and the internet has made people less authentic than they would normally be, let's say, if we didn't have it, right? Because you never really know if you're interacting with someone just online, or like you're just watching videos of someone that they put online, that is your online life the same as your regular life, okay? Are you putting on a different persona when you're online than you are when you're, you know, just out with your friends or home by yourself? Do you think that the internet and social media has maybe warped a lot of people's sense of reality because they don't want to be authentic? They want to portray themselves as something else.
Well, I would answer that question in a sense of, I don't think people don't want to be authentic. I think that naturally we are fed structure. Whether that's going through school, going through, you know, different classes or whatnot, we're literally force-fed structure from the day we were born. You know, in order to get your kid, you know, in a certain alignment to go to bed, you have to create structure for them to go to sleep. You know, because if you don't, you're going to be one of those parents that are going to be up all day. So I think naturally structure is innately like ingrained in us. Now, this is where it goes wrong. So when we look at like authenticity, I think that the people that are trying to be authentic find it very difficult to use social media because they're it's kind of like the fact that Instagram can tell me when I should post something and how I should post it and the analytics behind posting it. It gets rid of like what is actually raw. Like if I just I don't know when my videos are gonna hit. Like the other day, I'm gonna get 6,000 views, and then another day I get 100 views, and it's like, well, what is this? You know what I mean? So I think that when we talk about authenticity, I think that social media is a structure, and innately as human beings, we want to be accepted and we want to fit in. And so in order to fit in, you know, you have a platform that says, hey, you know, hoe out your creativity. You know what I mean? Look like this. You know, here's some filters that will help you do that. Here's, you know, all the tools to make you less of yourself. Like the fact that I can be in Hawaii and I can broadcast that I'm in California, and people would think that I'm in California the whole entire time is a reality that's fictitious. But I think that right now America or the world needs a break, right? And I think COVID and the pandemic was a break for a lot of people or whatnot, and a lot of people struggle with that because they weren't used to dealing with themselves. All of a sudden social media became like, oh my goodness, I don't want to see this artificial person again, because you were okay with it when you were working because you would just pop it on and you would just watch it or whatnot. But then people had to take a deeper look inside. And then as anything else, over time, if we're like as the pandemic's, you know, doing what it's doing, we get used to it. And then we go back to our unauthentic self. And so to answer your question, I feel that, you know, people want to be authentic, but I think that social media, the fact that if I'm painting and I gotta like put the camera on me and move around, I'm not in my authentic self because I gotta move this camera everywhere. You know, and so
that's true.
But I think that it's a tool though. But you got to use it where you're still being true to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I just find it. I forget the name of the family. There's actually a couple of families who were these reality TV, one of these families that's on TikTok and, posting on Instagram, and they've got these beautiful cars and luxurious houses, and they're portraying a life that, okay, everything is great, and I want you guys to see how we live. And then we find out, oh no, you owe the bank $500,000 and the house is about to get foreclosed. Okay? Now, I think that, stuff like that is what I would say maybe warps people's minds. Because I am a humble man. I come from humble beginnings. I didn't have a lot of money when I was a kid. We were pretty poor. But I feel like now more than ever, and I may be overstating it a little bit, but I feel like people worship money more than they should, and it's more of a priority than, let's say, just being a good person. Okay, so you have these people. There's this one. I don't want to say the name, but find out these people have no money. Yeah, they've been taking out crazy loans, but they want you to think that this is how they live. They're happy, and if you want to be happy, this is how you should live, right? Like, I see a lot of people online where telling someone they're broke is an insult. Yeah. Like, that's not an insult. Some people are just, sometimes you're just born into it, You have no choice of the family that you were born into or the situation that has been brought upon you. And to make fun of someone for not having money, to me is, I don't know, it's really gross. Yeah. But I do feel like, to me anyways, that the worshiping of things and wanting to let everyone see all of the things that you have maybe takes away from the person, because I see all the shiny stuff. It's how I feel about art, right? Like, you can see an art piece and it'll be the most beautiful thing in the world, but you don't know that maybe this artist has been tortured his whole life and is miserable. But all you see is this beautiful thing, right? So that one of the reasons I wanted to do this was precisely for that. Who is behind this, right? I see a great piece. Okay, that's nice. But who are you? Yeah. What made you want to do this? What makes you tick? So for me, social media is a gift and it's a curse, right? Because there's a lot of good things on the internet. Yeah. Lots and lots of good things. But there's also, now more than ever, it's more of a facade. Like, I think the advent of reality TV really messed up a lot of people. Yeah. Because now you see people online, like these fake flexers. Fake flexers are one of my favorite things to watch online, because I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, is this fake watches. Yeah. But that's what's important to people. Yeah. And I think that, I don't know, I went off on this whole tangent now, but I do think that people shouldn't be so concerned about things and maybe be more concerned about the person that you are. And I think that the world would be a lot better in that case. And it would really make me think about that is this the little rundown that I read on your website. It's, combat dissonance and live authentically. And I think that now more than ever, this is just my opinion, people are more unauthentic. And I see that a lot. I'm sure you do living in Los Angeles. For sure. Because you get a lot of people that want to move down here, and they have an idea of what it means to be living in Los Angeles, to be in Southern California. So everyone I know that's like an asshole that lives here, for sure was not born. Yeah. Right? But they see Los Angeles on TV. They see all these rich people move down here. They see reality TV and they think, well, if I come down here, I've got to have the nicest stuff and I have to behave a certain way. And that's just, it's a bane on society in my opinion. And I was really thinking about that preparing for the show, because I kept reading that line over and over: combat dissonance and live authentically. And I was just thinking, are people as authentic as they think they are?
I think that we've been primed since we were born.
Yeah.
Like, and I said that about the structure, but the truth is that everybody has their own channel.
Yeah.
Right? So just like I mentioned, as far as like I went to a different school to become, you know, like I was myself, but I was just, you know, I could really truthfully introduce myself as how I wanted to be portrayed. And, you know, I was younger at that time anyway. So when you look at like social media, it takes me back to high school. And I look at it from a certain perspective. Those people that are like flashy every day, I delete them from my Facebook or Instagram or whatnot, because I'm like, I don't want to watch this all the time. And like, and then the next portion of it is that as far as being authentic, I think that reality is starting to become less and less. You know, like when we talk about art, everybody can do art, but some of us, when I say have it and some of us don't, it's about like who is saying that you have it and who is saying that you don't. Right? And then it's a loaded thing, but the truth is that I believe that everybody should do some sort of art form, because this is a way of expression. And if you don't have any type of way of expressing yourself, you become a part of the status quo and the norm of the way that if I'm talking to you, it's surface questions and we're not thinking deeper. We just have a certain mindset. And each generation goes through a sense of, you know, this, like the way that they would like society to be at a certain time. Right now, we could say that, oh man, people are super open-minded, right? And some of them are, but the truth is, even with that open-mindedness, what does that come with at the end of the day, right? It's like we have maybe more shootings in this time period. Maybe we have more, chaos or whatever, because everybody's open-minded and they're all thinking in a certain type of way or whatever the case is. And then the generation prior, it's like, you know, women cook clean and, you know, you come home and they got to smell great, you know, and So every generation has to fight through, you know, like this kind of persona of the way things look. I think the next trajectory where we're going is in a sense, a virtual reality, you know? And I'll just be honest with you, it's like all the priming to it, it's like we get so used to Instagram, we get so used to social media that we integrate ourselves into it. This is how we communicate. You know, I can get in contact with people on Instagram, but I can't text somebody and get in contact with them. Pretty insane. But the truth is that if we're headed somewhere, then the powers to be have to create a structure that ushers us into that next level. Gas prices rising. Best believe in the next couple of years we're going to be all driving some other types of cars. You know? Gotta usher it in. And we don't know if there's a shortage, to be honest with you. There's probably not a shortage.
I don't think so. It's all crap.
So, you know, it's just about like, you know, what do you want to believe? You know, and I think being authentic, and that's the reason why even with the paintings that I'm going to have at the R.E.D art show on the 29th is going
L.A. Art Box.
L.A. Art Box is going to be something where you're going to have to really look inside of yourself as you're looking at the pictures.
As an artist, right? Do you feel that the culture? No, let me rephrase this. That culture. That media pushes culture, right? You are being advertised to every day. You're trying to be sold something every day, right? Your phone's listening to you. They're all listening. Everything is listening to you, right? Do you feel that the media should shape where the culture is going? Because it kind of seems like that's what it is right now. Or for someone like an artist to push themselves to push the culture in the direction that they want it to go, instead of, this is what's hot, I'm going to do this. Or instead, you should all right, I'm thinking of something that maybe no one's ever seen. I don't know if it's going to work, but if I want to push the culture forward, I have to do this.
I hate the media. Let me just put it to you this way. So like, when I think about media, I think that it can be edited, it can be rephrased, it can be, you know, like you can mix and match. It's a collage. Like you can literally do whatever you want to do with it. It's not raw, it's not unfiltered. It's whatever they want you to understand, you know what I mean? And see. And so when I look at like media as it pertains to like TV or whatever the case is, I rarely watch TV, but when I'm in the gym, they have television. So I'm looking up and I'm just like, man, like, how can you breathe? You know what I mean? It's like monkeypox, COVID, you know what I mean? And then it's also like continue to eat like, you know, non-substance like food, like go to a restaurant that is just a generic like brand or whatever the case is, and go eat there. And this is like what we are watching and seeing. And so whatever we listen to and see is something that we're gonna go ahead and go do, you know what I mean? And so when I'm thinking about as far as like the influence of the media, I think that it's really a war, to be honest with you, between the authentic and the artificial reality. And those artists like Kanye, right? Like a lot of people don't like Kanye, and I don't support like, you know, the Trump situation and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, that's his opinion. You know what I mean? And people get really caught up in how could he and why would he and and all that stuff. Imagine, like I had this epiphany the other day. It's like, imagine you're having a conversation with your family, and then there's people that are watching you, and they start commenting on how you're having a conversation with your cousin, and they don't even know you. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it becomes this thing. And so when we see someone like Kanye, you know, where it's like he's just being raw and being himself. We all have emotional blowouts and stuff. Like we all have certain situations that we don't even make sense. You know, we're just all over the place as artists and things of that nature. The media that's anti-self and anti-authentic is going to blast you to death. And they're going to blast every part of you. They're going to blast like you got divorced and you were supposed to be a good husband and you're supposed to be And unfortunately for, you know, African Americans, blacks or whatnot, like we feel it the most, you know, out of any other unfortunately race or whatnot. We feel it in a sense. I don't want to say any other, I want to say as minorities, you know, they will come after, you know, stripping these type of people down to nothing. Like we look at Michael Jackson, we look at Bill Cosby. I mean, obviously they did some really horrible things, but the truth is that, you know, there's other races and people that have done really heinous things, and we don't hear about them anymore. You know what I mean? And so to answer your question, I think that it's very important during this time to be authentic to yourself, because you'll just be following a trajectory that's not yours. And when it hits the wall, you'll have to restart and then go follow another trajectory that might not be yours. And so as far as like, we need more superheroes, we need more Kendricks, we need more, you know, and in the art space, I feel like there's more people in that art space as far as like visual art that really challenge art and challenge the way we think. And that is honestly a part of like my purpose as well, is to be the anomaly, to be able to be unapologetically myself and to show that side of that. You know what I mean? So
that's good.
So we need more people of that in that area.
They're going to push it. They aren't just going to. I feel like some people need to find. I guess the right word is a team, right? Some people need a side. Some people need someone that they agree with. Okay? And the problem with that is you shouldn't agree 100% with anyone. Absolutely not. When you find that you think everything that someone says is right, if they say something is wrong, then it's wrong. then you're in a cult. Then that's something different, right? Yeah. I tell people that all the time. If you agree 100% with someone, with what someone says, you're in a cult.
Yeah.
There's no way people will disagree with their wives and have some actor or politician or, musician. For some reason, they think everything they do or everything they say is the absolute truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that the media has done, especially today, right? Because it feels like you have to be on this side, you have to be on this side, and if you're in the middle, then what the hell is wrong with you? Pick a side, It's,
totally.
And that's why I love artists, and this is why I love talking to artists, because you usually don't get that with artists. With artists, it's I'm not here, I'm not here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, I'm all over the place, right? Because that's how people should be. That's how life should be.
Yeah.
It's you shouldn't pick a side and then ride with that until the wheels fall off, because maybe one day you'll find something that you don't agree with, and then maybe you feel like that whole point of your life up until then has been a lie.
Yeah.
Has been a lie that you've been telling to yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So authenticity matters.
Well, I'll definitely say during this time, I would say that for a long time I was in that gray area.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out really where my voice mattered, and I think that's hard when the structure and the priming is so innate and ingrained in you.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the good boy, to offend somebody was a no, you know what I mean? And in art, you have to offend or create. It's not like you're trying to offend somebody, but you're creating a conversation.
Oh yeah.
To me, having a nice painting where you're like, oh, that's nice, but what does it mean? You know what I mean? It's it's nice. I like this lady that you drew with flowers and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. But is there any type of emotion or anything? That's me. There's other people that just want pure realism, and it just be in their house, and it's like, oh, that's really beautiful. Okay, but what does it mean? Maybe it means something to the viewer or the person that bought it. But the truth is that I think even a part of this R.E.D show, it's about me really authentically giving you myself vulnerably and saying this is how I see things. Yeah. When for a long time, I would either have to have a conversation with someone to bring up these feelings, and I might even shy away. But to have it broadcast, when people show up and they see whoa, that's kind of crazy. You're thinking from that perspective. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay, let's have a conversation about it. That's all of my pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way I always say this. Right. Yeah. You never know what someone is thinking. Right. Even now, looking right at you, I can't be for sure what you have in your head. But the thing about art and artists is that idea they had in their head that they put out onto a canvas or whatever, sort of medium you were using, that's what was exactly in their head. Mm-hmm. That's for sure, they were thinking about this, and the way that they saw it came out like this. Yeah. And so you can never know what someone thinks, but with an artist, for a second, they were thinking about it.
Totally. Yeah. That's true. It's very true.
I love artists. All right. Last question then, and thank you for taking time.
Thank you, man.
We've been talking for so long, man. Okay, so what advice would you give to maybe not even just an artist, maybe someone who? All right, I read this a couple days ago. There's a difference between talent and a gift. All right, you can be talented at something, but some people just have a gift. Some people just have something that it's from the heavens, right? What would you tell someone that is struggling with that thinks maybe, oh, I'm not good enough to do this? But maybe they do. Maybe they do have the gift, but they've got no one there to pull it out of them. Or maybe they just don't have the confidence to continue what they're doing. What would you say to someone like that that's maybe thinking about giving up before they even got a chance to start?
The gift is within the belief. I don't necessarily believe that people are gifted per se, I believe that they believe that they're gifted, and that is what takes them to the next step. It's about like vocal cords. Like you look at someone like Mariah Carey, or like in her prime, or like Whitney Houston in her prime, and things of that nature. It's like the interesting thing about a vocal cord is the fact that everybody's vocal cords are the same. Yeah, they're not twisted or changed in any different way. It's about how you are able to, get these sounds out, of your voice. And we create by imitation, we create our voice by hearing our parents and then hearing other people around us. It's pretty much an amalgamation of everybody's voice, and you choose how you want to, say it comfortably or whatnot. So when I think about that and gifts for people, I believe that they have to first believe that they have the gift. Yeah. And then that's how they're able to really get in that position. Now, you can be anybody. Like right now, you could sit down and say, okay, I want to be the greatest painter of all time. Okay, cool, you said that. But are you willing to do the work, right, to get to that place? And so what I would say to someone that is struggling with understanding their gift is to first give yourself permission to believe that you have a gift, right? Oh, yeah, I like and that. When you give yourself that permission to believe you have a gift, then everything becomes possible. Because, one day you can say, I don't run. I've never ran in my life, and I'm overweight, and I can never do this. And that is the perspective that you're going to lead with. And then you can wake up another day and you could say, you know what? I can run a marathon. I could be an Ironman. I could do all these things. It's going to take me some work, but I give my body permission in order to do these things. And then you start the consistency of every day you do something towards that goal, one step at a time. You start with like, okay, if I'm going to start filming, well, first you need a camera. So go to a pawn shop, and if you don't have enough money, like start putting some money into, saving for that. That's one step. So $1 a day, then go buy that camera. Then now you need subjects or whatever. And if you don't have any subjects, go to the Dollar Tree or something like that and pick out, like some stuffed animals and just start shooting stuffed animals, and understanding, like, this is the thing I don't think people get, is that you have to become a master at what you do. And mastery comes with time that you put into your craft. And so start to do that. But every, way to get to like showing up for your gift every morning has to do with your belief in yourself and your belief in where you feel like you can go. Remove every single thing out of your life that doesn't go with your gift. Even your friends, people that will be like, yeah, man, like you are really good at, just doing one thing, and that's what I want you to do. The reason why they say that is not to hurt you, but for them to feel comfortable in their own self. Because as you change, they have to change. And that's very difficult for anybody when they see their friend go, oh, you're gonna start playing basketball? And they start, like, at first it's like, you're whack, and they start getting good and they start getting intimidated. You gotta just kick them out of your life. You know what I mean? So that's the next step. Get rid of that. And then the last piece of advice I would say is I always put together some sort of vision board, even for R.E.D show. It's like, what do I want to actually get out of this, rather than wealth or anything. It's like that wealth is currency that we're talking about is relationship. That's what I want to get out of this art show, is mainly like, how can I continue to do this for the rest of my life? The money will come, it will go, whatever the case is. That's one thing that is irregular and changes all the time. So I would say the next thing is to focus on, creating like your destination of how, like your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan of how you're going to get there, and follow the course. It's going to be long. It's going to take time. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. Because trust me, although like I have like really cool things happening, I've had my lows where I've had nothing happening, and I had to create things that happen. So stick with those things, and I think it'll be okay.
All right. All right. That's a good answer. All right, everybody. Don't forget the Red Show, July 29th.
Let's go, be there.
6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I will be there. All right, so I better see you there. It's running from July 29th to the 31st, LA Art Box in West Hollywood. Everyone go check it out. And Augie, thank you again. Thank you so much. Let's definitely do this again.
Yes, sir, man.
And I will see you at the show.
All right, cool.
All right. See you.